Hey folks, Uniservo here. Today we're going to look at this ugly black box. Actually, we're going to do a little work on it too. This is a piece of Digital Equipment Corporation stuff. It's a hard disk, a fixed head hard disk for a PDP-8 called an RS08. Actually, this is just the disk and motor and head assembly. The electronics are basically not here. Now, the reason why I am doing this video is because this thing's out of here. I'm getting rid of it. It's going out west to someone that does have the electronics, but does not have all the mechanical bits. Can we join them up? Get them to work? Well, that's going to be his job, but who knows? But in any case, he wants it. He's going to get it. And we're going to take a quick look at the innards here and work on it a bit. And by that, I mean, we're going to see if we can actually remove the disk. This is for shipment safety reasons, because this is a fantastically delicate thing. And it's really, really heavy. It'll have to go in 2 packages, with the disk platter being a separate package for safety. Otherwise, yeah, it's just going to get ruined and there won't be any chance of it actually ever working. So this top here, aluminum box, there's an air inlet or an outlet, I forget. I think it's an inlet because I think there's actually a filter buried in there maybe. We're going to take it off and show you the insides. And here it is with that protective cover off. And immediately you can see the platter has some issues. Yeah, some nice spiral grooves. Well, you can also see that, yeah, there are no heads here. That is because the heads are on the other side. They're on the bottom. They are actually under here. And that's really what we need to get to. Now, yes, these platters apparently could be flipped. When one side got used up, basically, you flipped them around, realigned them, and got a little more life out of them. These RS08s and I think the controller was RF08, were honestly awful devices, but very early. What were they, late 60s, I think? 256 kilohertz, and they're going to be 12-bit. Although I think there was also a version for the PDP-9, so they would have been 18-bit probably, I assume. But yes, 256 kilowords, 12-bit words, per side, fixed heads. Below here, under here actually, is just a small AC motor, probably a 10th horse or so, maybe a 20, probably a 10th horse. I'm not going to lift it up because this is heavy. Just spins it off the AC line. You can see the power connections and also the ribbon cables for the signals sticking out the side there, and just unceremoniously just chopped off. So the idea is we need to take this platter off because the heads on this particular type of disc sit right on the surface. I mean, they don't float. They float when they're in operation, like all nice heads do. But when this disc is not powered up, the heads sit right on the surface of the disc. And normally that's not that big of a problem. You're not really supposed to ever power these down, but hey, you know, this thing got powered down. I have no idea of the history about it, of this particular unit at all. But yes, currently the heads are sitting right on the surface, and that's the big problem. I do not want to ship this item. It's already heavy. It's got to be 70 pounds with those heads touching the platter, because we think the underside of this platter is still in pretty good shape. That was the thing. You actually, as a DEC field guy, there were instructions on how to flip the surface here, the platter, so you could get more life out of it. It's in the diagnostic and maintenance manual, I believe. Now, truth be told, I've actually had this cover off for, nearly a week, I'd want to say, because, well, I got to get this thing prepped up. And, well, these 4 screws here, let me get my screwdriver here, that I think that's what hold the platter down. Boy, were they torqued down pretty hard. So I've been very gently working them, and I mean very gently working them, with a little silicone oil and very gentle tapping to try and get them loosened up. And most of them are loose. There's one that's still a little tight. Also, it uses a weird sized Allen wrench that I didn't have, so I had to get something together. It turns out a Torx works, even though that is not a Torx head screws there. So we are going to actually take the platter off, inspect it, put it to the side, take a look at the heads too. Why not? Give you guys a look at the undersides here. You cannot really tell anything from this without the platter being removed. There's just really no room to get around and look at stuff. There's a little electronics, and yes, the heads. So, well, let's try and do that. Okay, so here we go. Gonna take those screws off. Hopefully the one will go this time. 3 of them seem to be okay, but one was still pretty torqued down. So this is a first. You're gonna see it along with me. Now, one thing I am going to do is keep the screws in order, and I'm going to actually mark the screws so they can be put back in the same holes. I just think that should be something done for alignment purposes in case this already has been aligned. I don't know. I bet it's going to need to be realigned. But let's just keep the screws in the original holes, and I'm going to actually mark them. If you look here, there's a series of dots. Looks like those are for balancing the platter. They're little holes that have been drilled in the, what is this, nickel cobalt or something like that. It's some metal, or maybe the coating is nickel cobalt. I don't know. But in any case, little holes drilled. And we're going to call this sort of the 1 position, I guess. So the screw closest to where these holes start, I'm going to mark them with little dots on the side. So when they are reassembled, they can be put back in the original holes. Now, you'll have to remember that, yes, we are flipping the disc, so account for that. So let's see if we can get these screws off. I'm not going to spin the disc. I absolutely do not want to have this disc turned, because remember, the heads are sitting on it. And if there's any crud between the heads and the platter, it might scratch. So I'm going to keep the disc actually not spinning. It's actually pretty, it will spin, but it's pretty tight. So there is some friction. Okay, I think this one was not too bad. You can see we have our nice little screw here. The lock washer. And yes, I'm not wearing gloves. I know that, because this thing's just going to need to be cleaned anyway. So what I'm going to do, see if we can show this. On the number 1 screw, I'm just going to put 1 line with a black Sharpie. I don't know if it's going to see that on the camera, but yeah. Number 1 screw has 1 line. Now the number 2 screw, I think, was the tough one. Let's get it in there, and very slow, even pressure. There we go. Okay, we may be in good shape here. Yeah, he's going to have to get this all cleaned down. I want to say there's no actual like rust. I think it is nickel cobalt plated surface, which means that I don't think there's any real binder to come off or anything like that. And this one, we're going to put 2 lines on the screw. Moving on. was a little tighter than I expected, but that's okay. But I think we're going to get them all off. Then we're going to see if this actually comes off. If it's stuck, well, then we're in trouble. Get that split washer out of there. One, two, three. And finally, this one's a little tough too. There we go. And if you couldn't tell, the disc is pretty filthy already. All right. One line, two lines, three lines, four lines. And I don't know if you can see that on there, but there are little lines I made with the Sharpie. All right. Okay, here we go. Let's see this if this thing comes off. Okay. This piece comes off. I don't know if we can see there. Let's zoom on that. All right, let's see if this thing comes off here. Ooh, yes, it is. It is. All right, there we go. And the big reveal, what's the other side look like? The other side does have some scratches. I don't know what those marks are. I suspect they're dust. But yeah, this side looks a lot better than the other side. So what I'm going to do is put this down over on a nice piece of cloth. Okay, now, well, the platter hay came off. You can see, yeah, the motor does actually spin pretty freely. That's good. And let's take a look at some of those heads. Actually, let's take the camera off and get real close up on those heads. Okay, pardon the shaky cam here. But let's take a look at some of these heads. Oh, we're going to have focusing issues. There we go. I mean, it's real hard to tell, worn or not. There, and you can see some of the electronics. I'm assuming those are like the head read amps down on those boards. They're actually little flip chip modules, just kind of very specialized. Yeah, just a let's go over here, very little bit of spring pressure here. I mean, I'm no expert, but things don't look too horrible. There, yeah, you can see flip. Now, I don't know, first of all, why that one has its own, it's not doubled up. I wonder if that is the timing track for the timing tracks. I don't know. I'm also kind of assuming that all these heads are slightly offset from each other. You know, from the center of the hub. But great, this is great news. I think this is far more shippable. I can certainly ship the platter in its own box, probably wrap it in probably some sort of cotton cloth. I'd rather not get any residue on it that might be in bubble wrap. I'll use bubble wrap too, of course, but I want basically no abrasion and something that can, if it's just plain old dry dust from cotton, that should just kind of wipe right off. I have no idea what he's going to have to do to clean up the surface. Like I said, that's going to be his problem. I'm just getting rid of this. Yeah, because let's face it, I was never going to get around to this. I was probably never going to find an RS08 controller. So yeah, I'm going to ship the platter out very carefully, wrapped up and stiff, so the Postal Service does not bend it. I mean, it's pretty thick. It's got to be 1/4 of an inch thick, but we know that they can do damage. I mean, not nearly as much as UPS, of course, but I'm taking no chances. And just for fun, terrible lighting, but yes, there are those flip chips that go up to the heads, and the heads. I don't know if you noticed, but they are connected to these boards using very tiny magnet wire. So very delicate stuff. And there we have it. Pretty successful, I think. Oh, one thing I did forget to mention is on this hub-like thing here, I did mark the number 1 hole with a little black dot. So using the marked screws, the little black dot, and some of the other visual cues that you can see, like the little holes drilled on the platter for balancing, and also this little balancing hole here. I assume that little drill mark is to balance this. It can all get put together the same way, well, with the disc flipped over. And yeah, I hope this all works out for the soon-to-be new owner of this. Maybe I can kind of keep you guys informed on the progress. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit of a Hail Mary trying to get one of these things working, but you got to try. You got to try. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a comment, like, share it around, all that kind of good stuff. Hey, I do have a Patreon account. I'd like to thank all my patrons, of course. And I'll leave a link in the description. I could use $1 or $2 a month, whatever. Keeps me going. It's a good morale boost. And things are brightening up in 2021. And hopefully I can start making more videos on a much more regular fashion. Okay, guys. Talk to you later. Thanks a bunch. Bye-bye.